Will the Democrats win the House in 2026? Will Texas Democrats be able to stop this awful map from being made law? Will California hold a special election allowing redistricting to kind of counterbalance the Texas map? Will the courts allow redrawing of the maps halfway through a cycle? Mike Flood of Nebraska was yelled at consistently at a town hall. How much is the anger against Republicans right now? And with everything going on in Texas, and in particular with Ken Paxton, whose now wife has filed for divorce because he committed adultery, he was indicted on several things. He was impeached on a bipartisan basis in the Texas House. Will the Texas Senate race, do Democrats have a chance at winning that? If Paxton's the nominee, which is most likely what's going to happen because Cornyn will retire. So let's start with, will Texas be able to, the Texas Democrats, will they be able to hold out um, and keep this map from becoming law? My instincts on here is probably not. But they're going to do a good fight and they're going to raise a lot of money in the meantime. They might get it to go past this special election, but it just gets really dicey after that. Because the governor will keep calling special elections. I'm not sorry, not special elections, special sessions. The governor will keep calling special sessions, basically meaning they're going to have to be out of the state indefinitely. Now, a Texas House member only makes $7,000 a year. So they all have other jobs, other means of supporting themselves. So this becomes problematic for that reason, I think. So will Texas Democrats be able to actually keep this map from being enacted? See the Five of Cups in the water. I don't have a good feeling about it. Um, they have everything that they need right now. At this current point in time, I think they'll make it through this special session. I think, you know, in some ways it's woken up the apathy of the country. It's definitely woken up some Democrats. We get justice balancing things out. That just makes me think that the courts take care of things. Um, this is a new beginning, a surprising new development. This isn't the first time that they've tried this. Um, I feel like I know that this has been done in Ohio, because they fled to Wisconsin, but emotional messages coming forward. I just don't know that they're all in a position to where they actually can accomplish this goal. Because, $7,000 certainly isn't enough to live on. I'm sure they all have other jobs now. Some of them might be able to work remote. It's definitely a big crossroads in the country right now. It's all because of the felon, right? The felon knows that they cannot win this election. They cannot unless they change the rules, unless they gerrymander more districts. Expect Missouri to try to follow suit, perhaps Ohio as well, although I think Ohio is slightly less likely. Um, the Four of Swords here just goes to show how sick the Republicans are. Like, they don't really care about norms or anything. They don't care that they're supporting a person who most likely sexually assaulted minors. They just don't care. They have zero morals at this point. There's a lot of support for the Texas Democrats. So currently they have everything that they need. Their messaging is raising a lot of money for Democrats nationwide and for them as well. And they have quite the circle of support. The reason this is happening is because of the abuse of power of the felon. And ultimately, we end up at justice. Now, what justice looks like is a little bit questionable. Does it look like the map doesn't get passed, or does it look like the courts throw out the map, or does it look like California retaliates and everything kind of evens out? So there's some apathy in the country still, but I think people are starting to wake up. There's a surprising new beginning, and you know, there's a lot of people just waiting and wondering what's going to happen at this crossroads, and the Republican Party is incapable of thinking for themselves. They are, for all intents and purposes, a huge cult. That's just what they are. We get the Knight of Wands. I like this underneath freedom, giving and receiving of money, and things hang in the balance. And then we get the Fool card, and then the Tower card. My guess is that they hold out. I don't know that they're able to hold out the whole time. So Gavin Newsom says he's going to try to hold a special election on redistricting, let the public vote on I don't know if they'll actually be voting on the maps or just voting on the idea of letting the maps be redrawn, something along these lines. Will this actually happen and will it be successful? Switch decks here. Will California be able to successfully have a special election? Arnold Schwarzenegger came out and said he would oppose this. Will they be able to hold a special election? Will it pass and will they redistrict? We're kind of going to try to answer all three of these at once. Well, the voters will render judgment. I think this is good confirmation. It's about the voters, the Four of Wands people. Do you get the Empress in the upper right? Let's keep going. See what that might mean. We get the Queen of Wands. They're going to make a very persuasive case for why this needs to be done and how California is the last lines of defense. Uh, we get pausing and suspending, thinking about things from a different perspective. Actually, that's a pretty positive card at the center of the reading. Uh, we get the Hermit. California might be the only state that can redraw from the Democratic side. And we get illusion and delusion. And we get forward movement. And yeah, holding democracy close to the vest. I think so. I think, the voters are willing to pass judgment. I think they see things from a different perspective. And I think that they will be told, and for all intents and purposes, correct, they'll be holding democracy in their hand. I think the people opposed to this are a little bit delusional. And I have a feeling the Democrats are going to paint them as just being part of Maga and Russian operatives. That's just the way the argument's going to go. So there'll be very persuasive arguments to move this forward. A lot of thinking and introspection before it even goes to the voters. So, and now this has to happen fast because the election needs to be in November. So, yeah, giving and receiving the money, I think they'll raise a lot of money. The whole world is watching. People want moderation, which in this sense is offsetting Texas and fiery messages coming forward. So I think that there will be an election on this. I think it passes as well, and there is a new map. Okay, let's. So will the courts even allow these new maps? Now, this to me is, in a normal world, this would be a very simple question because theoretically, if the Democrats overtake Texas, they could redraw the map. Um, if, Republicans were to take over California, they could redraw the map. It's like it's all of a sudden the map would be redrawn every 2 years or 4 years. Um, it just doesn't seem very tenable. So, will the courts allow this drawing of the maps? Definitely needs to be done really quickly, like in no later than February, I think. The courts will be very sensitive to the idea of primaries being delayed. Uh, And of course, the whole thing is the felon is scared that the Democrats are going to take over and then there's going to be all these investigations, right? That's what it's all about. They'll hear it very quickly. They'll hear the legal challenges very quickly. Uh, and they'll hear a lot of messages in the defense of democracy. And we get lost in the upper right, but we have to know what that means here in just a second. I do think they'll render judgment. Okay, the hermit at the center of the reading. This makes sense. I do think that the courts will rule to strike down these maps. Yeah, victory in the courts. Yeah, families, reunions, celebrations, and the Queen of Wands, that prosecutorial type energy. The courts will act rather quickly. I don't think it'll go beyond the first appellate court. Um, or if it does, there'll be a stay on it if the ruling is incorrect. The prosecutorial type arguments are going to be quite effective. The people challenging the maps will be victorious. The people trying to change the maps, who are the hermit here, because they're kind of on their own here. The people of Texas don't want this. They're the ones that are going to experience the loss. And there'll be judgment in the environment around and um, messages coming forward. Ultimately, the decision will help families and, you know, it's just going to go down. They're going to lose. So, yeah, they'll have to walk away from that idea. Uh, this is just a new reality of really needing to challenge all these things in the courts. There'll be a lot of fighting, and the truth will ultimately win. I'll look at the Supreme Court's voting rights case that they're looking at here later, but so I want to do a little bit more research on exactly what it's about and what it's not about, because there's a lot of misinformation here about exactly what it's about. Um, so I want to make sure I fully understand it. Okay, so Let's just look. Will the Democrats win the House in 2026? Then we'll look at the anger at MAGA, and then we'll look at the Texas Senate race. The Democrats win the House. I've always seen them winning the House. I think even if they were to get this Texas map passed, I don't think it's that close. I think, you know, the Dems pick up several seats. Along the way. Iowa in particular, I think the Democrats pick up two of those seats. I think they pick up two or three in Michigan and two or three in Pennsylvania. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they'll pick up at least one in Nebraska, maybe two even. Uh, Now, Mike Flood's district is pretty conservative. I think he won almost 60% of the vote, but uh, farmers are like not even harvesting their corn at this point because it's not worth harvesting. So, meaning they can't make money, costs more to harvest than they'll make selling it. So they're just going to till it under, is what I think a lot of them have decided to do. But there's still time. Corn prices could rebound. Usually harvest is in October. There's a lot of anger though over these tariffs. And in particular, not even necessarily the tariffs, just the response of, you know, we're in this situation because of Republicans that no one in the country, no one in the world, I should say, wants to buy American grain because it's genetically modified and it has a huge carbon footprint, and there are lots of laws in other countries that don't allow it. So this is all the Republicans making. Let's see Speaker Jeffries at a State of the Union address. So I think so. I've always saw them winning. It's gonna be a fight for sure. It's mostly gonna be a fight against mis and disinformation, but things are stable. People's opinion of the Democrats varies, all the time. Uh, but it's a matter of waking up young people and realizing there is no third party option here. There just isn't. You either vote for the Democrats, you vote for the Republicans, or you throw your vote away. That's as simple as it is. The Queen of Swords, yeah, I think logic and truth prevail at the end of the day, and justice for everyone. Circles of support around money at the center of the reading. I think Democrats have plenty of money to spend. This will be seen as a big election, bigger than most midterms. And I think the Democrats have the turnout advantage because the low propensity voters are the Republicans now, which is different than in the past. We do get the tower. I think this is just in reference to how much is being torn down by MAGA and the felon. We get the moon card. There'll be a lot of volatility along the way. Things coming to the surface, things coming to light. And we get the Five of Swords, which in this case, I think they're the victor. So it'll be an uphill battle, but they'll have the money to be victorious and to wound the felon. The felon tearing down the structures is the reason why they'll have the money and to restore some semblance of consistency with the Queen of Swords. And they're going to run on providing stability and justice and investigations, not all of them, but some. And they'll run on this being a huge crossroads. If the Republicans keep control, expect more of the same, more worse policies. And I think that's how they win. And here's the card for the Democrats underneath. and the whole world will be watching. And the country, I think, moves away from the trouble. Um, when the lover's card fell out here. So I think so. Okay. So this anger at MAGA, is it real and will it translate into votes? More importantly. The anger at MAGA real? Will it translate into votes, or are these just Democrats making everything look? No, I think MAGA's mad. Um, things are more expensive than they were. Particular, like core inflation is doesn't look like it is, but it is. Its food prices are up, energy prices are down, and they offset each other. Although expect energy prices to go up as well. We got a long ways to go until 2026 election. Um, People do not like this business in Texas. People feel betrayed. MAGA feels betrayed by what's going on in office right now. It's inevitable, the three of uh, wands, and then the 10 of wands. We'll have to see what that kind of means here in just a second. They want things balanced. That's all people ever want is balance and consistency and predictability. When you sit down to do your budget, you want to be able to do your budget for 6 months to a year, right? You don't want to be able to just do your budget for this week and then next week things are priced differently. It's hard. If one plan doesn't work, try another. Things coming to the surface. Expect more Epstein revelations and expect to find out that uh, the cabinet members were hiding things. People are going to be thinking about their children, their grandchildren, especially farmers, the family farms. There's going to be, there is some circles of support here. It's not like all MAGAs turn against and we get the voters. So a lot of MAGA feel betrayed because this wasn't the plan that they voted for. And they're going to remember that when they go to vote. People thinking about their next generation, also taking care of their parents, how this wasn't the plan. Things weren't supposed to get harder. And that's exactly what they did. Everybody has more burdens now. So, yes, there'll be some people that still support MAGA, but it's inevitable that they lose support. It's a volatile situation, so Democrats need to be careful. They can't go running around talking about conspiracy theories. They need to talk about the economy, the economy, and justice. Justice will balance the things out to keep the country from going too far off the rails. The voters will render judgment. They're already thinking about it, and MAGA's in decline because what do people want with the Ten of Swords? What do they want? They want stability with the Four of Pentacles. That's all people want. They just want to be able to do their budgets and not worry about if prices are going to dramatically change from this week to next week. Or if all of a sudden, electricity prices go up because we can't get copper refineries start laying off workers. bourbon distilleries already are laying off workers. Uh, this is not a great situation. And the numbers, Wall Street, like the stock market, I think will continue to go up, by the way. I don't think that that's a very good indicator of how people feel, because businesses are going to make more money. It's just not, they're going to make more money on the backs of everyday Americans. That's the problem. And that's why there'll be this kind of two vantage points on the economy. Okay. So will Democrats have a chance at Texas? Democrats have a chance at winning the Senate race in Texas, assuming Ken Paxton's the Republican nominee. If Kim Paxton is not the Republican nominee, the Republicans will win the Senate race in Texas. But if Ken Paxton is the Republican nominee, I'm not so sure. I mean, he's kind of a Roy Moore-like figure. They can't run Colin Allred. They just can't. Colin Allred will not win. Hmm. Like this, I think that's who they're going to run, though. Can't run. They have to run somebody that nobody's heard of. I think there's an astronaut that's entered the primary. I think that would be a good candidate. They can't run anybody that's already ran and lost. Just won't work. Just like Beto did well against Ted Cruz, and then when he ran for governor, he did terrible. It's the same thing. People don't like to vote for people that didn't win before. They have a hard time raising money. It's just the way it is. It's nothing against Colin Allred or Beto O'Rourke. It just is what it is. It depends. If they nominate the right person, I think it's a possibility. I don't think they're going to nominate the right person though. So the with the Empress, then Page of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. So the Democrats will have the right messaging. The Empress concerns me a little bit. New partnerships. Hopefully, maybe they will nominate somebody new. They're going to have to if they want to win. That's what I've always seen. Yeah, firing new leadership at the center here. I like that. The devil definitely misinformation, misdirection, disinformation, lies, whatever you want to call it, is what the Republicans will be spouting. We get unlikely partnerships here, and I think this is between the voters and the Democrat. Yeah, the voters just don't want what Ken Paxton is going to sell. They just don't. And they want the truth and they want consistency. So I think we need to be a little bit worried about foreign influence, but I do think they have a really good shot at it because people want consistency. Now, this is assuming Ken Paxton's the nominee, and that it's not Colin Allred or Beto O'Rourke, which I don't think Beto O'Rourke is going to run, but Colin Allred probably will. It's not going to work. Um, the voters will align. I think there's an astronaut running, I think. Um, that'll give us the fiery leadership, and they won't have any problems raising money. Their messaging will be right on point. It'll break through the mis and disinformation. It'll lead to this new partnerships where voters actually feel like they know their senator and they just don't want what Ken Paxton is selling. And underneath we have the Wheel of Fortune and then the Star Card of Protection. So yeah, I mean, I think they have a shot, but you have to nominate the right person. Um, that's just the way it is. So, all right, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.